The world is mud and drawing water. The old man, his title now a bitter irony, clings to the threshing roots of an ironwood tree as the river unminus makes the land. The sky, a bruised purple, weeps a ceaseless, cold rain. He is a creature of the plains, a plains minus walker of the sun minus fire clan. But the sun is a forgotten myth and the plains are now a churning brown sea. His exile, a punishment of slow starvation, has been interrupted by this foster death. Days ago, the sentence was delivered. His hands, now a bit still strong, had failed to hold the ceremonial spear. A tremor, a weakness. His time as a provider was over. Now, the spirits of the world seem determined to ratify the clan's judgment. He is Homo Erectus, an upright man, yet he crawls on his belly as the ground itself dissolves beneath him. His lifetime of knowledge, of trekking gamma and reading the stars, is useless against the sheer, dumb power of the flood. This is a force from the time before humans, a remaking of the ancient earth. His world shrinks to the next handhold, the next breath scraped from the wet air. Then, through the deluge, he sees it arise, a muddy spine of earth crested with a skeletal clutch of cycads, holding its head just above the water's insatiable hunger. Hope, a dangerous and unfamiliar feeling, sparks in his chest. He releases his grip on the roots and swims, his powerful but aging limbs fighting the current's pull. The water is a liquid predator, cold and suffocating, but he reaches the slope, hauling his exhausted body onto the sled. He lies there, gasping, the mud a comforting solidity beneath him. For a moment, there is only the sound of his own ragged breathing and the endless drumming of the rain. The island is no more than 100 paces long and half as wide. A prison, but a dry one. He is alive. The ground trembles. It is not the subtle shudder of a distant rockfall, but a deep, resonant tremor that vibrates through the mud. Up his bones, and into the base of his skull, he pushes himself up, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. Across the small island, a shape detaches itself from the gloom. It is a mountain of scarred, slate minus grey flesh. A leg thick as a great minus tree's trunk plants itself in the mud, followed by another. The head lifts, a horrifying sculpture of bone and teeth, turning slowly. Rain sluices down a hide crisscrossed with the white lines of ancient battles. One eye a milky, blind orb, the other a pit of black, intelligent malice. The Tyrannosaurus rex does not roar. It lets out a low, guttural exhalation, a sound that is part of the storm itself, a plume of steam jetting from its nostrils. It too is a refugee, a tomb, like him, deposed from its territory. Its gaze sweeps the island, its phenomenal binocular vision locking for a moment on the small, shivering mammal huddled in the mud. The old man does not move. He does not breathe. He has become stone. In that gaze, he feels the weight of his absolute solitude. There is no clan. There is no help. There is only the rain, the rising water, and the god of this drowning land. The god of the drowning land is patient. It watches the old man with an unnerving stillness, its great head unmoving, its one good eye a predator's lens. To run is to be prey, to fight is to be pulp. The old man holds his ground, his mind, a frantic tool sharpened by 60 seasons of survival, racing through impossibilities until it settles on the only path. He cannot be prey. He must become an annoyance, a puzzle, something not worth the energy to solve. This is the great turning point in hominid history, the moment a mind, not a claw, becomes the primary weapon. He slowly, deliberately, lowers himself back into the mud, making his form smaller, less challenging. He averts his gaze, a gesture of submission understood across species. The T-Rex watches for a long, water-logged minute, then gives a low rumble of dismissal and turns its colossal frame, its tailless sea-wide thing through the cycads, and begins a slow, ponderous patrol of its new, tiny kingdom. Night falls not with grace, but like a wet shroud. The cold seeps into the old man's bones, a more intimate enemy than the dinosaur. He knows he will die of exposure long before the beast's hunger becomes critical. He needs fire, tucked into the leather pouch at his hip. A desperate hope, a shard of flint and a lump of iron pyrite. His last gift from a world that no longer wanted him. It is the pinnacle of his people's primitive technology, a captured piece of the sun. But he needs tinder, dry tinder, in a world made of water. He crawls on his belly, a worm in the Rex's kingdom, toward the skeletal remains of a lightning-struck tree. He finds a sliver of wood protected in a deep crevice, still dry at its heart, shielding his work with his body. His back to the rain and the roaming monster. His hands begin their ancient, sacred dance, flint against pyrite. A spark. Nothing. Again. A spark dies in the damp air. The ground shakes. The Rex is near. His hands do not stop. He works by feel, by memory. His knuckles rot. Another spark catches on the powdered wood shavings. A tiny ember glows, a fragile orange star in the oppressive dark. He nurtures it with his breath, feeding its levers of wood, protecting it from the wind, until a small, defiant flame flickers to life. He has stolen fire from the storm. The fire is both salvation and a beacon. The T-Rex sees it. It stops its patrol and lets out a frustrated, questioning roar that vibrates the air. The old man doesn't flinch. This is his move in their silent war. He feeds what leaves into the flames, creating a thick, acrid cloud of smoke that the wind carries across the island. The smoke carries no scent of meat, only the bitter perfume of burning, alien vegetation. The great beast snorts, shaking its head. Its incredibly sensitive olfactory lobes, which can track prey for leagues, are being assaulted by meaningless, irritating noise. It is confused. It paces at the edge of the smoke. It's great from a phantom in the gloom. The old man throws a rock far to his left. It splashes loudly in the floodwater. The Rex's head snaps toward the sound, its attention diverted. In that moment, the old man is not prey. He is a ghost. A whisper. A vexing presence on an island that should belong only to the king. The long, terrifying night becomes a duel of wits. A chessboard of fire, shadow, and sound. The rain stops. In the grey pre-minus dawn, the world holds its breath. The roaring of the flood has softened to a steady, powerful gurgle as the river begins to retreat into its banks. New land emerges, slick with brown silt, a promise of escape for both prisoners. The island is no longer a cage, but a choice. The unspoken truce, born of mutual confinement, is over. Hunger, a patient predator in its own right, begins to gnaw at the belly of the great theropod. It is no longer just a refugee. It is a starving king. The T-Rex lets out a low, guttural roar, a sound of profound frustration and imminent violence. It begins to move with a new purpose. Its heavy footfalls no longer a patrol, but a hunt. The old man is a husk. 3 days of cold, sear, and near starvation have stripped him to the bone. His fire, his only ally, is a dwindling pile of embers. He knows the beast's calculus has changed. The shrinking island made him a complicated, smoky annoyance. The expanding land makes him a potential first meal before it moves on. He feels the primal terror of the hunted, the instinct to flee that has kept his ancestors alive for 1,000,000 years. But his mind, the legacy of all those human ancestors, screams a different command hold. To run now is to trigger the final, lethal chase. His survival depends on this last, desperate bluff. The T-Rex approaches, its massive head lowered, its one good eye fixed on him. The stench of wet reptile and old blood rolls over him in a wave. He can see the intricate pattern of scales around its eye, the bony ridge of its post-minus orbital horn, the saliva glistening on teeth like sharpened stones. It is a creature from a nightmare, made real. The old man's body trembles uncontrollably, but his hands are steady. He snatches the longest, stoutest branch from the fire, its end glowing, angry claw, as the monster looms over him, a wall of muscle and teeth blotting out the sky. He does not cower. He rises to his knees. He stabs the burning brand forward, into the space between them. A shower of sparks erupts. He shouts, "Burrow!" Red sound scraped from the bottom of his lungs, not a plea, but a challenge. It is the cry of a creature with nothing left to lose. The T-Rex recoils, not in pain, but in surprise. It lets out a hiss that sounds like rock grinding rock. This tiny, frail thing is not behaving like prey. It is fighting back with light and noise. The beast stares, its ancient brain processing this anomaly. Before it stands a morsel that is not worth the irritation of a burn. Not when the newly exposed riverbanks surely crawl with easier, softer things. It can smell fish trapped in receding pools. It can hear the clumsy movements of other displaced creatures. The great head lifts. It makes a decision based not on anger, but on a predator's ruthless economy of energy. With a final, dismissive snort, the tyrant turns its back on the defiant spot. It walks with Earth- shaking deliberation to the edge of the island, steps onto the new mudflat, and disappears into the morning mist. It does not flee. It simply chooses a different kingdom. The old man is left alone, dealing in the mud, clutching a dying ember. The absolute, profound silence of his victory crashing down upon him. He has claimed his throne. He remains there for a long time, a solitary figure on an island of mud. The smoke from his fire a thin, wavering line connecting the wrath to the empty sky. From the grand perspective that only time and paleontology can provide, this was not a battle. It was a footnote in the deep history of prehistoric life. A momentary inconvenience for one great predator and a fleeting victory for one small hominid. But, on the scale of human evolution, it was everything. It was the moment the duel between brawn and brain shifted. A quiet affirmation that the most potent weapon in this savage world was not a claw or a tooth, but the ability to build a fortress of pure nerve. The old man's legacy is not written in stone, but in the instinct that flickers behind our own eyes in moments of crisis. His desperate gamble, his mastery of fear, his use of intellect as both shield and spear, these are the survival skills that echoed down through uncounted generations. How much of our own world is built not on the foundations of great works, but on the echoes of such impossible, desperate bluffs played out in the terrifying dawns of a world that should have devoured us. For in the chronicle of extinction, the most dangerous animal is the one that refuses to die. But what happens when the beast is not on the land, but in the mind of the clan itself?